Nail or beauty school was just the beginning, right? What on earth do you do now? Welcome to the Salon Success podcast with Monaco Nail Academy. Our topics stretch beyond nails and into all things salon related, business, marketing, and social media, and at the very least hits you with real, honest stories about our experiences. This isn't school, this is real life, real business, and really freaking hard work. The Salon Success podcast is recorded live on Mondays at 5 p.m. New Zealand time via facebook.com/Monaco Nail Academy and available on Spotify and Google playlists. Before we get started, wherever you are, thumbs up, tag a friend in the comments, or hit the share button and support small business. Hey guys, Penny here from Monaco Nail Academy, and I'm taking sort of the lead today. I am here with Mariah from Wished For Nails. You guys have met her before. Hi, Mariah. And then we have a special guest with us today, Rhieley Jordan, from where? From Rhieley Jordan, yeah. Right? Yeah. So Rhieley is a financial advisor specializing in insurances, and I know that from working with lots of our students who are starting out in small business, that insurance is something that kind of gets left behind because we don't know anything about it. So, yeah. I mean, I know anything. I know that I didn't have public liability insurance for the first 2 or 3 years. And when I found out what it was and that I needed it, I panicked that I hadn't had it for that amount of time. So basically what Rhieley does is a totally free service where she meets with you. She talks about your goals and financial ambitions, and then centering around insurance, but she does have a lot of connections to bring in any other financial advice that you need. She makes recommendations that are going to help you achieve those goals no matter what happens in life's journey. That's about right, eh? Yeah. Yeah, I've spent a lot of time trying to understand it. I think I'm getting there. So Rhieley's services are totally free. I have put her I've put her details on the screen, and also we'll go over them multiple times. But if you are listening on the audio only at the moment, her Facebook page is facebook.com/A for Apple, D for Dog, V for Violin, I don't know, I for Indigo, S for Sally, E for Elephant, R for Rabbit, A for Apple, L for Lima. So we will put that all over our social media as well, but that is where you can find her to get the service for free within New Zealand. And so basically what we're going to do is Rhieley and Mariah are going to go through one of these free meetings in real time for you guys. You can jump in and ask questions at any point. I have full permission to interrupt them, but we thought that the best way to go over this sort of stuff and help you guys with insurance was to have a real live insurance expert here. And the best way to help Rhieley, who's been a friend of Monaco since the beginning, to promote what she does is to actually show you what she does. So before I jump in, if you are listening right now, hit like or share or chuck a comment in to say hi and let us know that you're there. And I'm going to pass on to Rhieley. Rhieley has been chatting with Mariah for about 20 minutes, getting a little bit of background information just so that they didn't jump into this live on the podcast recording with absolutely no prior information, but they are going to pretend that they have not done that and start from the beginning and go through everything that they need to. So I am going to hand over to Rhieley, and I'll just interrupt whenever we have questions. Alrighty. Your turn.
Awesome. So, Mariah, thank you so very much for your time today, first and foremost.
You're welcome. Likewise. I'm here every week, Rhieley.
So, what we're going to be doing today, I'll go through my agenda with you. I don't know if they can see that.
It's a bit
They can kind of see it.
Okay. So there's a couple.
We're sitting in front of a window so that people can see us.
So there's a couple of key points that we do need to cover off just to make sure things stay consistent for you and everyone. The first bit, I'm just going to go through all the different topics, and that is starting off with what you'd like from me from today. What do you want to cover off, and what sort of relationship do you guys want to have? So following on, we'll go through some of the background and disclosure information about who I am and why you should trust me with all of your personal information. Following that, we'll touch off on the Privacy Act Then we'll go through where you're currently positioned with your goals and what you're progressing towards. After that, we will just go through what's actually important and what are your constraints and considerations that we might need to take into account. We'll discuss any exclusions, loadings, or deferments if necessary, and what that means to you in terms of getting cover and making sure you have the best quality of cover. Following that, we'll book a meeting roughly 1 week from today, just so I can present you with a personalized report, because I am going to be taking the information you give me away to do some research and to compile information together, so you know that you're getting something that's good for you. Does that sound good?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. So kicking things off, what do you want from me as your advisor?
Advice.
Nice.
No, I think I'm probably in a similar position to theoretically lots of our listeners, in that, to be perfectly honest, you're not somebody I've ever really thought of before in the past. Or if I have, it's been like, oh yeah, I should probably sort that thing. But yeah.
Cool. Do you know what that thing is, or do you feel like it's just, yeah?
I think that age-old thing of not knowing what I don't know, and therefore not knowing what to ask in relation to that, because I don't know what I don't know.
That was me as well. And when I did eventually sort everything out, I sorted it out with a broker, but I still don't understand it. So like when Rhieley explained what she does, like I'm kind of sitting here like, oh, I should probably talk to her. But like Rhieley's my friend. I know if anyone's already booked, it should be me. But you don't do what you don't understand, I think.
Yeah.
So something that we touched on before we actually got started was the insurance industry in New Zealand's not something that's super accessible to everyone. So I actually have an undergraduate degree specialized in finance, and I just finished my graduate diploma also in finance. And I chose to specialize in risk because I quite enjoyed it, but also because a lot of people don't know how they are underinsured or overinsured in some cases, and where different exposures are. And I do really like helping people and working with them. It's not an easy industry to understand all of the time. And even with my 2 degrees, I am only specializing in risk right now. Yes. So it's not something that we necessarily expect everyone to be like, yep, I know I want this, this, and this, and I know it should be like this for me. So it is important to talk to someone when you're when you're getting involved into it for the first time.
And your title is financial advisor, right?
So I'm a registered financial designer. My business
financial designer.
Yeah.
So fancy.
Yeah. I am a registered advisor, and you can find my information on the financial registry in New Zealand. So you can actually Google me and find out my financial services provider number if you want to have a look.
So obviously we'd love people to be calling you. Yeah. Which, do they call you? Do they email you?
Yeah. So you can call me. My business number is 022-128-3856.
And so we'd love people to be calling you directly, but if they didn't, what are they Googling to find a person like you?
So you should definitely look for an insurance advisor or an advisory firm. So a firm will usually connect you to a number of different people. A lot of them are pretty local. I travel quite a bit. So my furthest client lives 2.5 hours from Auckland.
And you can do this by Skype too, right?
Absolutely.
Similar to what we're doing now.
Yeah.
I think half the issue, like you were saying, often people go with their banks and stuff like that. I went with my bank because I wouldn't have known what to Google to find you. So I knew my bank did insurance because it had an insurance tab at the top of the website. Yeah. And that's all when I first did it.
Yeah. And it's good to have insurance. Some banks have some limitations on their insurance because they are managing their own risk and they're as a business. Whereas we'll work directly with the insurance companies that they're insured with, and we're not. And the insurance companies are in it kind of for long term. It's not about kind of buying and selling quickly or upselling you necessarily at the time. It's about making sure you have the right package in place long term.
Is now a good time to talk about your how your commission works?
Oh, yeah.
Put that on the table.
So I do get paid on commission. So all of my earnings, but I don't make a different commission rate for the different insurers. So what I'll do is I'll look at your situation. Different insurers have different pricing based on your demographics. So where you are, how old you are, gender, those sorts of things. And your pricing might be better with certain insurers. Other insurers will have benefits, kind of value adds that are fun to have. And that might be important to you to get like rewards. And we'll have that sort of discussion. And if that's something that is really important to you, it might be worth paying the extra $15 a month to have that in your life.
Cool. Awesome. Sweet. What's next?
All right. So next up, so we covered off all of that. So we're actually going to get started into filling out an online form.
Sure.
So,
before you do, is it all right if I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
This could be something that's completely untrue, but I don't know if other people have heard the same thing. Obviously, as a homeowner as well, we had to look into insurance and life insurance and that side of things as part of them, just mortgage application processes and that side of things. But I don't remember who told me or how I heard, but I'm sure that somebody mentioned like having home insurance or home and contents insurance wouldn't necessarily help me or cover me. And in fact might be threatened by the fact that for me, I have a business run from home. So those things wouldn't be covered under my just general home and contents insurance, and that my regular policy for home and contents insurance could be in jeopardy by having a business run from home or whatnot. Does that make sense?
So yeah, that does make sense. So it can depend. So specialized equipment sometimes has exclusions on different policy wording. So you would have to check the policy wording. So usually when you have a new policy issued, they send you a ream of paper and 8-point font all the way through and says, please check this.
Yeah.
Please check every word of this to make sure you understand it and ask us any questions within, I think they usually give you 90 days. So it's likely going to be in there somewhere, and different policies, depending on what they charge, are either comprehensive, like they'll just blanket cover you. So that'll probably be a more expensive one. There'll be agreed value where you guys make a decision on every little thing that's in your house, or there's going to be ones that are standard basic cover. So it would really depend on what type of cover you have in place, and we'd have to look at the policy document. I can tell you right now that in my house, we have a record collection that has not yet been priced, and because it hasn't been actually priced, it is not insured. The bank has excluded it. Well, not
Sorry,
the bank.
where did you live?
So that particular thing within the house, because it's considered a collection, it is a specialized item, and it does need to be properly evaluated. They sometimes have special things for jewelry as well. So jewelry either over $3,000 or $5,000 for individual pieces. Artworks would also be in there. So because it's specialized equipment, it may come under there, depending. So it would be worth having a look at the policy documents.
Yeah. Cool, thank you.
Right. Not a problem. All right. So moving into the form, we're going to start off with a little bit of a background actually on insurance in New Zealand. So there's 2 triangles that I usually take customers through. The first one is regarding medical insurance in New Zealand, because that can be its own special bit of sunshine. So the medical cover in New Zealand is basically divided into 3 tiers, and I'm going to hold up a picture, and I'm hoping that it shows up. Yeah.
So this is like a stepped model, right? Or
so generally you buy it from the bottom up, the base of the pyramid. So at the base of the pyramid, you have base cover. So that's our hospital cover, or it covers your surgical and non-surgical procedures. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I was covering it with my elbow. So that's anything where you might want to get into the hospital, have an operation taken care of, and then get out of the hospital and move on with your life. So in New Zealand, different insurers cover up to different limits. It can be anywhere from $80,000 to $500,000 for those limits for your surgical procedures. And in there, you also have different mixtures of both pharmac and non-pharmac medication cover. So that's something that's been in the news quite a bit lately. So those limits and caps and what pharmac is and isn't covering. And it's basically what is and isn't subsidized by the government.
Okay.
So some insurers will just kick in cash, which is great. Above that, you have your specialist and test cover. So specialists and tests are things like your x-rays, your mammograms, any of your ups and ins, so the endoscopies. So with that, it's that level of cover is really to get off the waiting list. So if you've ever had that situation where you've had something kind of niggly, have you had any of those in the past?
I don't think so.
Oh, that's good.
Don't jinx yourself.
Touch wood. So it's to make sure you don't have to wait to go and see a specialist to diagnose whether or not it is a thing that you need to go into hospital for.
Okay.
So in New Zealand, there's a standard excess, which is like a car excess, where you pay the first $250 per specialist that you visit. And they would cover everything else up to $10,000 for specialists and tests per year. And at the very top is the everyday cover. So that's going to see your GP or getting your prescriptions, dental and optical insurance. So that level of insurance can be very, very good, or it can be kind of a mix depending on your situation. So for you, how many times a year would you say you go to the doctor?
As little as possible. It's really expensive. I work with young children, so my immune system's pretty strong. I'm not there very often. It wouldn't probably be worth it for me.
Yeah. So what they tend to do is average out the cost of servicing your demographic for the everyday cover, and most insurers are priced on a dollar in, dollar out. So if you don't go very often and you get that cover, you'll be kind of offsetting the costs of someone who goes all the time, who's in your same age range and kind of situation. So it's usually better off if you don't go very often, if you don't see the dentist more than once or twice a year, to kind of keep that money in your pocket and pay it out of pocket when you need it.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. A couple of cool things about the base cover is that it does cover specialists and tests in most cases if you see a specialist and you have to go to hospital. So you don't have to take out the specialist and test, but they can, they consider it a part of that cover. So you can take these out in modules instead of all out as one.
Sure.
So it kind of lets you choose what level of cover you want to have in those situations. Did you have any questions about hospital cover in New Zealand?
No, I'm following so far, I think, or I'm just completely lost and don't even realize.
Oh, good. No, sounds pretty good. All right, so that's that level of cover. The next bit of cover is, it's normally on here, but I'm going to try to draw another triangle for you. I call it the triangle of doom. It's often also referred to.
Yeah. Don't forget as well that lots of our people are only listening. So
okay. Oh, okay. So what I'll do instead is just talk about the different layers in that triangle, and discuss what type of cover is designed to protect you in those different situations.
Sounds good.
So right now you're 100% healthy?
Yes. I mean,
And at some point in the future, we can agree that we are all going to pass away, right? Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately. For all of you, you're going to miss me.
We will. So most...
So sincere. She meant that.
So the great majority of us will have a number of life events that happen along the way between perfectly healthy and not around anymore. Roughly 3 to 10% of people will skip those life events and they only need to worry about dying.
Really?
Yep. And it depends on where you live.
Me.
And
I just want to
everything.
Has my mom sent you to pressure me about having more children?
So
I mean,
she neither confirmed nor denied.
So we're gonna move on. There's kind of 3 categorizations of life events in between living and dying, and the first one is a temporary disability. So that's where medical insurance would really come into play. So I'd like you to imagine you went skiing on a skiing holiday up to Japan.
Imagine that, Mariah.
Yeah.
She's the most uncoordinated person I know.
All right, this is going to make the example even...
happen.
All right, you have now dislocated your shoulder.
All she did was step out of the car.
So it's a compound fracture, and it's been reset, but you're having some ongoing issues with being able to move and some nerve touchy stuff. Which roles will that affect your life, and how?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So in terms of nails, it's going to affect my ability to do that. In terms of early childhood, it's going to affect my ability to do that. Early childhood in particular, they don't have there's no such thing as light duties. And right. you can't tell a 2-year-old that you can't pick them up.
Yeah. So what this would do is having medical insurance would mean that you'd be able to not have to wait in the public system. And that's the real point of having medical insurance in New Zealand, because the wait lists are getting increasingly long as we face an aging population. And so what you would do with private medical insurance is go in, see a specialist, say, this has been hurting, I can't work, fix it, and they can go in and fast track you, and you can just get it done and back to 100% healthy as quickly as possible.
Here, you'd get fixed anyway, right? You just have to wait a really long time, and sometimes by then it's worse.
Yeah, that's true. And also, if someone comes in who's more in need than you get bumped down the list.
Yeah,
because that is how it works.
Lifetime is definitely money, right?
Yes. Yeah. So it's worthwhile to consider it as something. So some people can afford to pay out of pocket. I have a couple of clients whose grandparents paid for both their hips out of pocket. Hip surgery is between $17,000 and $30,000 per hip in New Zealand right now.
Holy moly!
So
I'm not going skiing anytime soon.
Yes, if we learn nothing today other than you shouldn't go skiing.
Yeah. So that's the first level. The next level is something called a trauma or a critical illness. So it's not like getting in a fist fight, but it's a very serious health event.
Somebody tried to make me go skiing.
Yes, that could be pretty traumatic. So I think I'm going to move on to a heart attack example. So my grandfather had heart attacks growing up. Do you guys know anyone who had a heart attack?
Yeah, I think there is a history of heart attacks in my family.
So when my grandfather had his first heart attack, he went into surgery and he came out, and a week and a half later, he was back at work because he didn't have savings.
That would be me.
Yeah. So most doctors recommend 3 to 5 months of recovery time. Yeah. So I don't know if you've ever seen the statistic that you should have 6 to 8 months worth of savings at all times.
Yeah.
And Yeah, so most people don't actually have that cash on hand, but what you can do is organize your insurance to provide you with that level of cover, so you can kind of have that in the wings and only be paying a nominal amount towards that each month, as opposed to chucking half your paycheck in to try to get it up to a level where you can survive for 8 months. Cool. So then some of the other things that might come up with a trauma or critical illness are you might get some really aggressive but really rare form of a cancer. So
I mean, today's a rough day for me.
Yeah, you're getting it left, right, and center.
Maybe this is why I went skiing. I just wanted to YOLO.
I mean, yeah, it's good. It's good to take care of yourself. It's definitely good to do that.
I mean, we have a friend who has a rare and aggressive form of cancer who's a nail tech. So this is quite actually like, although it's not Mariah, it's a good example because it
can happen
close to home for us.
So the medical cover can cover treatments in New Zealand, but maybe there's something that's happening over in England right now, and you're like, I want to go try that. So there's something called a trauma cover where it pays out a lump sum when you experience a trauma. So it doesn't have to be deadly. So a lot of life insurances will have a terminal illness benefit where if you are going to die, they'll pay it out early. So the trauma cover is a little bit earlier, and it's like something really bad's happened. Here's cash. You can go overseas and do whatever you want with it. So you can go on another skiing vacation.
Not ideal. I learned my lesson with this.
Or you can head over and try for an experimental treatment over in England and just pay for that out of pocket. So it's entirely up to you. It is just cash in hand. You could use it for bucket list, or you can use it to adjust your lifestyle, or you can use it to try to get better. So it's just to help pay for anything that you might need but can't really afford otherwise.
Yeah.
Like to help with that situation. The next level of so the next life event, and that's going to be the last one, is something called a permanent disablement. So there's two categories of this. There's permanently disabled from any employment, and that's well and truly stuffed. So you're not able to do anything.
That would be like you need a carer and that sort of thing, right?
Yeah. And it pays out a lump sum as well. So similar to that last one, you wouldn't be looking at getting 100% healthy again, but you would be looking towards adjusting your level of living so you can have a comfortable lifestyle. The other thing which can come up is unable to work in your own employment ever again. Okay. So after your skiing vacation, so if your hands get crushed, or if you lose your arms, or even like you have really aggressive onset arthritis later in life, and you're not able to extend your fingers anymore, then you cannot do your own job.
Yeah.
And in that case, permanent
back injuries.
Back injuries,
because we sit the whole time. Because that's something we talk to our students about a lot. Because I've had a back injury that affected my work, and for us sitting all the time, we try and instill in our students to look after posture and ergonomics from day one. But a back injury could definitely be something that came under this, right?
Yeah. So if those ones are harder to get paid out, just because they want you to recover. They definitely want you to recover. But if you genuinely can't work, it's a little bit cheaper than other forms of insurance, but it's something that means you're truly stuffed. And if you don't have anything to fall back on, no other plans, it's a good thing to do. But like right now, if Penny took out any permanent disablement, and her hands got crushed in a freak nail polish accident.
Probably I could over her.
It'd be Mariah.
I pushed her off the chairlift.
No, don't do that. So what they would say is, well, you have this great background in call center work, and we can get you this really cool call center rig, and you can go back to the call center.
So we're not paying you because there's a job you can do.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's an important consideration between the two.
Yes. So Mariah's not allowed to push me off any chairlifts.
Or just take you out totally.
Well, that segues nicely into the next cover, which is the death cover. So life insurance is actually pretty cheap in New Zealand. And you can think of it in a couple of different ways, but some people like to think of it in terms of protecting those that they're leaving behind. So is that a consideration you'd want to, something you need to think about?
I mean, my partner and I recently organized life insurance, and obviously, yeah, that was something we took into consideration. I don't know that I needed to provide for like the next 10 generations the way that he wanted to, but you know, this is a relationship, we find middle ground, so.
Yeah.
Would this be like, because Mariah and Glenn own a house together, this is looking after like her half of the mortgage for him?
Yeah. So it's that. There's also a number that most people don't think of is how many years is your partner going to need to not be working after the loss of you. So most people take 2 to 3 years to recover fully and emotionally from the loss of a loved one. Like, it hits pretty hard.
That long, but I'm just not so sure. We'll chalk it up to just everyone copes differently, okay?
I'll take 2 to 3 years to get over you, Mariah.
Oh, okay. You want to be in my will too, huh?
She's just heard the levels.
I mean, I pushed her off the chairlift. I guess I owe her one.
You kind of owe me. Who knew insurance could be so fun?
So making sure that that's structured correctly is quite important. So you'd want to cover off whatever mortgage you couldn't cover on your own. When young children come into the picture, you also have to think about childcare and like ongoing costs with that, whether or not you want to stay at home, and then you'd be replacing both of the incomes at that point for a period or for indefinitely, or you might want to just eliminate all the bills and pay out bits and pieces. So there's different ways that can be structured. Some people also do it in terms of future wealth attainment. So it allows you to live your best life, but still leave something behind. If you have a life policy sitting there, you don't have to worry about whether or not you have the savings plan that you need to leave your kids something. You can just leave them that insurance policy. Cool. Yeah. Did you have any questions about this?
No, that one's a little bit more familiar, having only organized it a couple of months ago.
Yeah. Do you remember what sorts of questions you had back then? Like, is there anything,
the biggest thing I remember was just the, maybe this will make more sense to Rhieley because this is my picture brain. There was 2 models. One was kind of like a steady incline. So like you paid basically more depending on when you kind of jump on the ladder. So in theory, if you jump on it like 45, you're paying this rate. Whereas if you jump on it 25, you're paying this rate. And then the other option was to like jump on now and kind of get that rate the whole way through kind of thing. But that's
so that no, that's a payment structure.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it's a payment structure that you can take out for trauma and life covers.
Okay, there you go.
Cool. All right. So next up, what we're going to be doing is going through all of your information and like what sort of situation you're in. Following that, I'm going to take all of your information away to a secret location and do some super secret. Yeah. No, I'm going to be doing some independent research with it, and I'm going to be going through, and I'll be talking with my manager, who, if there's anything unusual or anything interesting, and making sure that we're getting the best plan in place for you. I'll come back in roughly a week's time, not necessarily on this podcast, but I'll present to you the recommendations that I have that are tailored just for you. And anything that you're like, yes, I definitely need that, we'll submit an application for together. And then we'll set regular review cycles after that.
Sounds good?
Cool. All right. So in terms of Mariah, Mariah, do you go by Mrs. or Ms.?
Miss. I'm not married.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
See, no jewelry to insure.
All right. And what is your relationship status at the moment?
Is it de facto? Is that a tick box?
Yeah.
I'm stuck. I'm well and truly stuck.
And next up, can I get your date of birth, please?
21st of January, 92.
Just a wee baby.
So young.
It's nearly my birthday, guys. You can all get me a present.
I gave you Rhieley.
And you said in our discussion before that you were a non-smoker?
Correct.
Okay. So normally we'd be going through and getting all of your phone number and your email address and all of that, but we can fill that in later.
Yeah. Sure.
And your primary occupation is the childcare?
Early childhood teacher.
Okay. And you are an employee there?
I am.
All right. How many hours do you work per week with them?
Well, I work 4 days a week, and that's 7:30 until 4.
Okay.
Somebody want to pull out their fingers and toes, and I'll count those.
I think it's a standard day.
Yeah.
Is it more or less than 8 hours? I think it's more than 20.
I think it's more. Yeah.
It was 40 hours, and then I minused a Wednesday.
Nice.
Yeah, I think it's more.
And how long have you been with your employer?
9 years.
9 years.
Holy moly, have you?
Yeah, sure have.
And we worked out your earnings earlier with them?
Yeah.
So we've got just a couple of details. Rhieley's obviously telling you guys that are listening what information she's getting from Mariah, but we have pre-written down a few little bits and pieces so that it's not publicized.
And the final question in this section is, do you work in a hazardous occupation? So hazardous would likely involve chemicals or heavy lifting or heavy machinery.
Definitely heavy lifting, no machinery, like the occasional use of ladders. Sorry, what was that, Penny?
Children are heavy.
Yeah, definitely. Some of them more than others.
Cool.
And
What
then
about-
chemicals on the nail tech side of things.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Nail tech would count as working with chemicals for this, right?
Yeah. So that where that comes into play is the classification for your employment and where it sits with the underwriter. And so something that's hazardous means there's more risks in your life, which means you're more likely to have something happen because you have more risks that you're exposed to.
More likely to have to pay out.
Yes. So
I'm not allowed to.
They would. I'm sorry.
So
She's not
basically,
allowed
I'm
to
just not allowed
ski.
to ski.
No skiing. That's the first thing.
Oh.
So, the next thing I would normally go through, and we went through earlier, was the Privacy Act and your rights under it. So we would go through that one-on-one in a meeting. What I do is a partial risk analysis. So I don't go through any financial risk reviews. So I don't check where she's investing her money. It's just about your personal situation and in your living situation in terms of risk. And
if you guys are listening live as we're recording this, feel free to chuck in general questions in the comments on our Facebook page. If you guys are listening to this after the live recording, again, feel free to pop over to our Facebook page and ask questions. We can tag Rhieley in at any time and she can help you guys out.
Absolutely. So next page is going to go through assets and liabilities. So the assets are things to consider to offset any costs if you did have a major event. So the first asset class is your home, your house contents. So not the actual home, but the contents of your home.
Yeah.
Or things that you sell.
So we're just sort of still setting up furniture-wise. So this is where I'm terrible at maths and values of things. I just go shopping and buy the things. It's somebody else's job to work it out. We have, it's a 4-bedroom home, but like one of the bedrooms is full, and we've got like couches we were given by family and that side of things. So furniture-wise, I really don't think we'd be above 10 grand. Even that would probably seems like lots.
I reckon you'd be shocked.
Yeah, that's true.
And also, just because they got given their couch from a friend doesn't mean they insure
to replace it, right?
Yeah, it's replacement, right?
Yeah, so that's something else to consider. But this is more about liquidate things you can liquidate.
Like what she could sell it for.
Yeah,
right.
So we'll put 10,000. It doesn't have to be accurate. So if you don't think you could sell anything, it's fine. All right, so then the next is the family home, and you'd probably want to put your the CV value as opposed to your purchase value, just because.
Sure. So we're in Auckland, so nobody be shocked at this, but basically I think the recommended government value or whatever it was came in at 1.1.
Okay. All right, and your vehicles are next?
Yeah, so do you want both of our vehicles?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
So my vehicle would probably be, again, about the 10 grand mark, and then Glenn's vehicle is about the 2.
Great. So altogether 12.
Yeah.
Any other properties that you own?
No. I think we have a trailer, actually. I have no idea how much a trailer is worth. I don't use it ever.
It's all good. We'll leave it off for right now.
Okay.
So the next bit is your business. If you had to sell your client list,
Ooh.
I should have asked you this one earlier.
Yeah. Penny would be like, I want her back.
So we could think of it as a year and a half's worth of earnings.
Okay.
As a simple way to sell.
So the value of your client list is what you would earn from them in 18 months.
Yeah. So that's a very quick and dirty way to calculate it. Some people might charge more or less.
So I've just I know Mariah's figures, so I've just written it down for Rhieley rather than saying it out loud.
We can be like sly guys that do the write on the note and slide it across the table in negotiation.
That's literally what I did.
Yeah, it's more and more like
a cool with it. All right. Next, we're moving on to liabilities, so things you owe. So starting out with your mortgage.
Yeah, most of it.
All right. So I'm going to make an assumption on that. Okay. And what are your monthly repayments?
So I think it works out because we're like technically we're still building, so we're in what's called a drawdown process. But basically, it works out to be about $3.5 grand a month, just over.
Right. All right. And do you know if you're on a fixed or a floating rate interest at the moment?
I think we're fixed at the moment because of the fact that it's drawdown.
Okay. And do you know when that fixed rate expires?
No, but I don't think it's sometime next year.
Okay. All good. All right. Next up, do you have any other personal loans?
No, nothing. I paid off my student loan, but I don't think that counts anyway, does it?
Oh, congratulations. No.
The slight delay in us talking to each other sometimes makes it sound like you're thinking more than you are. Like, when she asks questions, it's like, and you're kind of sitting here thinking like, Mariah, you should know the answer to that, but it's just a slight delay.
So do you have any credit cards?
No.
Hire purchases?
No.
Overdrafts?
Nope.
Any other liabilities?
No. I mean, I have a partner who sucks all my time.
Well, that's the next one. Monthly expenses. So excluding food, how much do you usually spend on utilities, bills, and other things in your life?
Okay, so I tend to put over
I have a calculator.
around $600 a fortnight.
Okay.
But that possibly would include food, so I don't know how I would remove food from that because we're not very good regular shoppers. It's like, oh, there's nothing in the house. Glenn, you go.
So at this stage, it would just be an estimate. When
Okay.
we put in the application, we try to get a more precise figure. All right. And do you have any dependents at the moment?
No. Just Penny.
Other way around, mate.
So you've mentioned that you currently have life insurance. Do you have any income protection insurance at the moment?
Maybe. I think that
Any
might have
trauma?
included in all of those
Maybe?
sorts
Okay.
of things.
Trauma?
If I did, it'd be all under the life insurance things. So I know, I think we didn't go as far as like, we didn't get the one where if I go to the doctor, I can claim for that kind of thing. We didn't go that far, but my partner's had a few surgeries as of late. So yeah, we went for that one.
Right. Okay. Cool. All right. And do you know what level of life insurance you have?
No.
Like how much cover you have? Okay. So what,
I know
what we would do in this
more than me because he wanted to literally like cover 4 generations down the track. And he's convinced that he's going to die very early on, probably just with the stress of dealing with me.
So, not the stress of him being a cop, the stress of dealing with you.
So what we would normally do in that situation is I'd ask for you before I present the report to just submit through a copy of your life insurance, or I could request a copy of it for the purposes of doing research. And I do this for people who just want to make sure that they're on the best plan for themselves. So you could be with a broker that you really love, and I could just be doing a review to make sure that it's what you need to have.
Similar to yourself. He is a friend of ours, Jason, but I think he just being more equally confused by what he does in a day-to-day job, and same with yourself. I'm like, maybe these guys do the same thing.
It's possible.
That kind of segs nicely into a question that we've got on the Facebook live stream from Gina. The reason I say it segs is because I feel like perhaps getting you to review what she's already got is something that I didn't know that you did might help her. Mm-hmm. Gina said, where is it? So we have health insurance already, but she has become a nail tech since having that health insurance policy. So do I need to speak to my insurer about the additional occupation?
No, you don't need to do that. So
what about it with it
not
being
generally
more dangerous potentially because of now being exposed to those chemicals we were talking about earlier?
So generally, it may depend on which insurer you're with, but generally they do a full underwriting of who you are as a person, and they'll look at your full medical notes, and you have to disclose everything in the kitchen sink about everything that's ever happened to you. And based on all of your demographic information and your history, they make an educated guess, and they place a marker at where they think you are in terms of risk. Now, if you choose to add on any covers or increase any covers by a certain amount, depending on who you're with, they may re-underwrite you. So they may ask to re-look at all your information. The other thing that could happen is, so there's a couple of insurers who don't underwrite until point of claim. And so while you might have been priced at a certain rate, if they're doing their underwriting at point of claim, they may have something in the policy document about requiring you to have done a disclosure. So it is worth doing a review at least once a year, kind of one-on-one, to make sure that nothing major's changed. At least touching base about that. But if something major has changed, looking at what your documents say, what your duty of disclosure is, because there's something in New Zealand where there's that initial duty of disclosure where a client has to provide as much true and correct information as they know about. And depending on the policy documents, that may be an ongoing term for the cover. So there are quite a few different insurance companies, and they've had a lot of different policies over the years, so it would be worth having a look at what those documents say. Generally, they do not require you to update them with life changes because they've already kind of put you in the worst case scenario basket when they signed you up.
Right. So should she possibly be calling and just saying, with this policy, am I required to update you with life changes?
Yeah. Or if you have a copy of the policy document, they'll usually email it through or mail it through. So it's usually a giant stack of paper, so about an inch thick, with all of the details in it. And then you can have a look-see.
Or she could call you and get a review done.
You could definitely call me, and we could go through a one-on-one review and look at what you have. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome.
All right. So the next section we're going to go through is a series of health questions. So we start off with your height and weight, which we already got down.
Tiny and tiny.
Next are yes. So the next set of questions are yes, no. If there's a yes, we'll pause and take down a couple of notes. And if it's a no, then we'll just keep moving on. So high blood pressure.
No.
Abnormal or high cholesterol.
No.
Asthma, lung disorder, bronchitis, emphysema, TB, or respiratory disorders.
No.
Drug dependency, alcohol abuse, or gambling.
No.
Any liver disease.
No.
Kidney disease disorder. Yes. All right.
I mean, it's
urinary. That's why you got to get this in early.
Yeah.
Any urinary condition, bladder, prostate, or gynecological disorders?
No, and I bet everyone is grateful to hear that.
All right. So the next one involves stomach and intestines. So that includes ulcers, colitis, Crohn's, gastrointestinal tract, bowel disorder, disease, including bleeding.
No, I'm very boring.
Favorite kind of customer. No, it's good to learn about all types, genuinely. But any skin disorders, including dermatitis, psoriasis, eczema, suspicious moles, or other lesions.
Yeah, I get eczema from time to time.
Okay. When were you diagnosed originally?
Oh gosh, I don't know. As a child, like it's kind of come and gone over the years. So.
Okay. And are you currently on any medications? Or a topical cream?
If it flares up, I have a steroid cream or something like that I can put on. But Quell, guys, any nail techs out there with dermatitis?
Yeah.
QEL. Google it.
xmd.co.nz is the best thing in the entire world for nail techs.
Basically, yes. I haven't touched any of the really gnarly steroid creams since getting onto that stuff. So 100% recommend.
Cool. Nice. And when was the last time you had a flare-up with it?
Maybe end of last year, December 2017, at a guess.
Great. All right.
Are these questions pretty typical of the questions that you would ask if she had said yes to anything?
Yes. Yeah. So we'd ask what it is, when it was diagnosed, what is your treatment, is it ongoing, and are you on any medications? And when was the last time you experienced symptoms?
Awesome.
The next one is a cancer or tumor?
No.
No.
Just me.
Yeah. Some kind of parasite.
All right. So the next one is muscles and bones. So that's your arthritis, rheumatism, tendonitis.
No, nothing.
And then any breaks, strains, or sprains of any of your muscles, bones, or joints?
No, I've broken a collarbone and dislocated an AC joint, but that would be over 10 years ago now.
We still want to disclose it.
Okay.
Just in case. Sure. It's better to say something's happened than to have it come up later and then say, oh, well, you didn't disclose that, so we're not.
Sure. So I would have been about 15, 16 and went off of the front of a horse. This is also why I don't ski. Who falls off the front of a horse?
Was the horse skiing?
Yes, definitely. No. He did have a sore foot though, and he was just adverse to my very tiny weight and height being on top of him.
You're so cruel.
Yeah, what a meanie. I used to be a horse trick guide, so I was there for about 5 years, and I fell off all twice. That's pretty good for horse riders.
For you, yes.
Yeah, it's incredible for me.
All right. So with that, what were your treatments, and when was the last time you experienced symptoms?
No, pain medication, but no surgery was required or anything like that. Yeah.
Okay. And did the pain die down that same year, or do you have any ongoing?
Not that same year, because I believe it was close to Christmas time, but within a year it was, all sorted back to normal.
Okay. And was it just one side, left or right?
Left.
The moral of the story is really don't give them any reason to possibly say no when you try and claim, right?
Yes. So
tell them everything.
Absolutely. So there's been lots where people, I've spoken to 3 clients, one of whom is now in a position where they're losing their income protection insurance because they were coached not to disclose a health condition that they had as a teenager, which got worse in the last 5 years and is now a pretty serious disorder, but they're linked disorders. Yeah. And it's going to be counted as a non-disclosure. And so he's been paying for it for the past 6 years. And it's just avoided policy. He's not going to get any money back on it. And it's really, really painful. And he thought he had some protection in place, and it turns out he doesn't have what he thought he needed.
Wow.
So tell them everything.
And if ever you're dealing with an advisor and they don't actually write it down, just tell them to write it down. If they still don't write it down, it may be worth talking to a different advisor. Genuinely, it may seem a bit harsh, but it's better that it's your money, it's your body, it's your life, it's your protection.
It's your risk too.
Yes.
They're not risking anything.
No. So if you do tell them and you find out later that they didn't write it down and you've recorded it properly, however, the advisor is liable for any of your risk that's outstanding. So that is something to hold on to and make sure you keep notes if you are at all suspicious.
Cool.
All right. So we have another few questions. So the next is diabetes, abnormal blood sugar, impaired glucose tolerance, thyroid disorder, gout, or glandular conditions.
No.
Nope. All right. Any disease of the eyes, ears, nose, or throat?
No.
Not. Okay, cool. So not including glasses for that one. So next one is
I had glasses. Sorry, it's so long ago that I didn't even think about it.
Oh, that's fine. Any neurological disorder such as
Rhieley,
stroke, glasses. How old were you with glasses?
I was an intermediate. How old are you an intermediate? It's another lifetime ago.
11.
There you go.
11 years old. Okay. And when was the last time you experienced symptoms?
11. I don't think I ever really wore them, much to my mother's disgust.
Nice. All right. So the next one is the neurological disorders. That could be stroke, paralysis, migraines, motor neuron disease.
No, I have a learning disability known as dyslexia, but I don't believe that comes into play because...
No, that doesn't... So there is a section for other illnesses where we can list it.
Sure.
So we make sure we disclose
it. Yeah. Write it down.
Just write in it.
Always write it down.
All right. So next up, a blood disorder, varicose vein, or hemorrhoid?
No.
Epilepsy or seizures?
No.
Mental or nervous disorders, stress, anxiety, or depression?
No.
Chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, myalgia, or chronic pain syndrome?
I mean, I work with children. I'm always tired, but no.
So do you have acquired immune deficiency syndrome or carrying the HIV virus?
No, I feel like I would know if I had these things.
Yes. Do you have difficulty sleeping for which you have sought treatment?
Not at all.
And within the last 5 years, have you been exposed to the risk of AIDS or HIV?
I don't think so.
Okay, so question.
Yes.
What if, so as nail techs,
Yes.
we should all have
Oh, yeah.
consultation forms
Mhm.
that our clients are filling their medical conditions out on. If a client has put on their consultation form that they have something like hepatitis, HIV, something like that,
Mhm.
should we then be declaring that we have been exposed to risk?
Are you, so in that case, if you're not taking proper risk management procedures on your end, so if you're not using like gloves or other things, and you are exposing yourself to the blood, then you are aware you're exposing yourself to it, you do need to declare that.
So if we have a client who has said on their consultation form that they have Hep B, but we are using disposable instruments, we're wearing gloves, we're wearing a mask, we're doing everything that we can to eliminate or, well, not eliminate, but reduce the risk,
Mhm.
then we don't have to say that we've been...
So if you, so it is better to declare it and
Declare
then,
everything.
and then not have it. There's a lot that that needs to come under, well, we've taken all reasonable procedures, and there's people, we know that there's people we interact with on a daily life who will have HIV or AIDS, and so it's actually not super reasonable to say that I have no exposure to any risk of it. So like the question is pretty nebulous. So this is also, as to let people know, this is a general form. This isn't for any particular insurer. So once we get to that point, they have very specific disclosure requirements, which will have a little bit more help text in terms of that. So if you do feel that you are at risk in your environment, then yes, we'll say it. If you don't feel you're in any risk, we won't say it.
If in doubt, write it down.
Yep. So next up is your recurrent dizziness or vertigo.
No.
Nope. Okay. Chest pain, angina, heart disorder, or rheumatic fever.
No.
No. Any other illness, condition, complaint, or injury not already stated besides the dyslexia?
Nah.
Okay. All right. And then in the last 5 years, have you been hospitalized or had any tests, medical treatment, or investigations?
Yeah, I just had a lump in my boob about a year ago and went and got that checked out. Everyone get yours checked, always. But it was fine.
It was definitely benign.
Yeah, it was odd-shaped boobs. Yay me!
So they didn't have to remove anything?
No. Just had to wear a gaudy, awful, like, little gown, and then I got out of there.
All right. So the next question I have is around family history.
Sure.
All right. So thinking of only your mother, father, brothers, and sisters.
There's still a lot of them.
All right. So any instances of cancer,
No.
stroke,
No.
Diabetes type 1 or 2?
Yes, sister with diabetes.
When was she diagnosed?
Rough ballpark figure about 3 or 4 years ago. Should be disgusted that I don't know this, but yeah.
All right. And how old is she now?
She's 22.
And do you know if it was type 1 or 2?
1.
All right. Then, next is Huntington's.
What even is that? No.
So that's a no.
That's a no. Familial palipsis.
Also a no. Are you just making up words now, Riley?
Yes. Multiple sclerosis.
No.
Any sorry, I'm going off of memory because the different forms have different ones. But
I'm impressed you remembered those words.
they're so weird I had to. Any other familial inherited diseases? Any other genetic?
No, I think my grandparents and great-grandparents have both suffered like heart attacks. I think my mum's auntie got cancer, but nothing like in the immediate family range.
Cool. All right.
We're all healthy and kicking and still, making each other suffer.
Nice. Always good to hear. All right. Next up, so the next bit is talking about the levels and types of protection that I'm going to structure for you. So we've kind of touched on it, but with your current cover, you have ACC in place and you have your own different levels of cover. So ACC will only cover you in case of an accident. For everything else, you do need to have an add-on insurance if it's something that you need to make sure that you're not missing out on any of your goals, like paying off that house or finishing any of the bills, like those sorts of things, growing your business. So if you can't afford to miss any income, then we would want to make sure you're covered in case of any major illness or anything that's not covered by ACC. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I'll be doing is I'll be calculating that based around the expenses that we set earlier, as well as the income levels that you have, because there's maximum levels we can put in place.
Sure.
Okay. All right. So with the income protection, how many months could you reasonably afford to wait without having a paycheck coming in?
I don't even know if we could make it to one, to be honest.
Okay.
That mortgage keeps on ticking over, so literally my wages just disappear into that mortgage.
Yeah. So do you have any sick leave in that?
Oh, right.
With your role?
Yeah, I have sick leave, but it's not a month's worth.
Right. Okay. So what I can tell you is that the minimum wait period on most insurance products is 4 weeks. ACC, I think, might be 2 weeks. So if it's an injury, you have a little bit of time.
Yeah.
But for illness, it need to have a little bit in the bank. Yeah. All right. Also, we usually structure the that sort of cover at either until you retire or for a period of 5 years. So most people, 97%, usually return to work within 5 years of having a major event.
Yeah.
Less than that might leave you underinsured and is generally not super recommended, but it is something that's doable if it's what you want and what fits your situation. And I'm just flipping through the thing. Okay, next up, the life insurance question. So for life insurance, we generally recommend that you cover off all or part of the mortgage, as well as cover off some of your income and your partner's income as they transition towards life on their own.
I think what we did was pay off the mortgage in full and gave each other about 5 years and effectively a trip around the world to meet our new partner.
Right. So, all right. So that is, I'm going to give you $2 million in there. Just so you guys know.
Can I have $2 million?
Yes.
Yes.
You had Penny as the joint policy owner. So you can apply for over $1 million worth of cover. The insurance companies will generally ask why. So you have to have a reason for that much cover. In Auckland, that's usually the cost of your mortgage. So there's that. And then you can just explain, oh, my lifetime's earnings are going to be over $1 million at this stage. So I want that much in cover. So it's pretty straightforward.
So it's fairly easy to explain it. You just have to have an explanation.
So there are a lot of people who like, I want to say I'm worth $1 million. It's like, you're already worth $1 million. Definitely already worth $1 million. But
I'm worth two.
Yep. Yes. Well, almost 3. But
Yoo-hoo.
Yay. Then in terms of trauma cover, so we usually recommend for the size of your mortgage, about 1/3 of the mortgage get paid down.
Okay, so the trauma is the never working again one, or?
Trauma is if you have a major illness or life event where you're really just thrown for a loop. So so that would be so major cancer, or if you had a heart attack or a stroke, then you'd want to take a break, and you'd want to not have to worry so much about kind of those big bills that are outstanding. Okay. So you don't have to use it for the mortgage. It's not earmarked, but we would recommend having that level of cover.
Okay.
That makes sense. And they're also recommending about 2 years of income on top of that.
Okay.
So that way it would kind of just pay for any of those bills along the way. You don't have to worry about them. The trauma cover can, with some of the product sets, work with the life insurance cover and actually kind of dovetail with it. And so because we've said that so much is going to come off of the mortgage with the trauma, you don't need that much for the mortgage anymore with the life. And so it will decrease the life cover, but will also decrease the cost of your life cover because assumedly you pay down. It's a cheaper form of trauma. But you're also not double insuring yourself, which is a risk that some people have.
Sure.
So next up, did you want to have a look at permanent disability insurance?
Do we want to for the sake of the podcast, Penny, or?
Probably just on time we might not.
Okay. Yeah. Moving on. And we're going to, so health insurance, we would discuss whether or not you wanted it and what level of excess you'd want to pay each year. So for the base cover, you can pay between $0 and $10,000 per year. And you'd use those numbers to kind of control your costs month to month. So $250 to $500 is kind of standard to start out with, unless you have a lot of things wrong with you, or as you get older, you'd expect to pay a bit more.
Yeah.
And so we're just going to finish up now. So do you currently have a will in place?
No, I kind of have like a handshake agreement with my partner. That's about as good as it gets.
All right. And do you have enduring power of attorney for either your properties and assets or your personal self?
I'm not sure. We have some kind of arrangement that we got with, like as part of the mortgage, just to dictate what happens if one of us dies, but we don't have like a will for anything else.
Okay. So I would recommend an enduring power of attorney to make, so that it's a legal document that says if you're incapacitated but not dead, what happens with your estate and what happens with your body.
Okay.
So that way you can make sure your wishes are taken care of and you're not on life support, or you are on life support as long as you need to be.
Yeah, I want to be on life support.
All right. So the final question is going to just be around the budget. So in order for it to work, it needs to be affordable, and it needs to be affordable long term.
Long term, yeah.
So insurance does work, but it works in the long term.
Yeah.
So it's recommended usually between 3 and 5% of your income kind of goes towards an insurance plan, depending on how much risk you're comfortable with accepting on your own versus how much you want to save for. So,
sure.
So that's just under 2,000 at the lower end for you, Mariah?
Per year.
Yep, per year.
Okay. And we can do a plan for that, definitely. So you can, if that 3% is a bit high for you, so if it's not something that you currently have budgeted into your plan right now, what you would do is consider which types of cover are more or less important, and kind of work with the numbers, because we still want to make sure that you're working towards your goals and those goals are protected, which is why you'd get insurance. And we'd prioritize which levels of cover and where the cover was going. And as you build up that budget, or you're able to self-insure or add insurance, we'd arrange that every year or when you have a major change.
Okay.
All right. So at this point, I would get you to sign off and say that you agree to let me use all of that information to create a report. Yeah. And I would thank you very much for your time again. So thank you. Genuinely, thank you. And we'll organize a time to come back and give you your report.
Yeah. Cool. Sounds good. Thank you for your time and your expertise, Rhieley. I know it's something that kind of flies over our heads a lot of the time. So, I mean, if I can understand you at 5 o'clock on a Monday evening, like, I think everyone will be following along, and it's probably given us all something to think about.
Awesome. Okay.
No one's ever going skiing ever again.
No one's ever going skiing. So if you guys listening have any questions for Rhieley, you can get them to her either through her Facebook page, which is facebook.com/advisoral. ADVISERAL. Yes. Or you can jump onto our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Monaco Nail Academy, and ask them there, and we can tag Rhieley in. You can also call Rhieley for her free consultation service on
022-128-3856.
Awesome. But yeah, Chuck, if you have been watching the live recording on Facebook, chuck questions in the comments. We'll tag Rhieley into any and all of them. We are now taking a 2-week break from the Salon Success podcast over Christmas and New Year's. So we will be back in 3 Mondays' time. If you have any requests for things that you want us to chat about or explore over the coming year, then please let us know. We have lots and lots of ideas, but of course, our entire goal is to take people who have done nail tech qualifications or other beauty qualifications and actually make you guys some money, because there's so many people doing qualifications, and it's so wonderful that the qualification is good and you learn how to do nails or lashes or waxing or facials or massage or any of those things, but how do you turn that into money? So let us know at any point by any of the ways that you know how to contact us what you would like us to explore in the new year. It has been awesome having Rhieley with us. You've got all of her details, but we have also had Mariah, and her handle on Instagram and Facebook is Wished for Nails. She's in Silverdale, north of Auckland, and I am Penny. I am the owner of Monaco Nail Academy, so you can get in touch with me via all of Monaco's contact if you need to. So thanks heaps for listening to our 6 episodes so far for 2018, and we will see you guys in the new year. Bye.
Bye.